In July 2025, massive flood occurred in China. The city was overwhelmed by huge floods, with muddy yellow water, submerged streets and buildings, and vehicles being swept away by the floodwaters. Even fuel tankers were swept away, which shows just how powerful the flood was. After the floodwaters receded, some Chinese people were still trying hard to find their cars, but those cars had already been totaled. Among these wrecked cars, some still have loans to pay. At the same time, a massive flood also occurred in Guizhou Province, China. This flood was larger in scale and more destructive than before. Heavy rainfall caused river levels to rise sharply, flooding many areas and causing severe damage to houses and roads. Many residents were forced to evacuate urgently, and their lives were greatly affected. The scene before my eyes is truly overwhelming. The raging flood waters are like an angry beast, surging forward with unstoppable force. The muddy waves churn continually slide, with debris swept away in the flood trees, furniture, and even the bodies of some livestock, rising and falling with the current. And once familiar villages and towns were instantly transformed beyond recognition. In my ears was the roar of the flood, deafening, as if it was going to swallow the entire world. I could feel the ground beneath, my feet trembling slightly. The flood is merciless, but there is love among people. Everyone is working together to rescue a car that was swept away by the flood. There are still people inside, and we hope to get them out safely. At this moment, I feel especially heavy-hearted. I just saw the scenes left behind by these natural disasters and truly felt how powerless we are in the face of them. Take that earthquake before. For example, the ground suddenly started shaking violently, and within just a few minutes, tall buildings collapsed like piles of blocks. People were running in all directions in panic, with screams and cries mixed together. Recently, the heavy rain in Chengdu, Sichuan, China came with overwhelming force, triggering landslides and other geological disasters. Mud and rocks from the mountains were washed down by the rain, blocking the roads and making it extremely difficult for rescue personnel and supplies to reach the affected areas. In the face of floods, we need to be well prepared. We should pay attention to weather forecasts and evacuate to safe places before the flood arrives. If you are trapped in a flood, try to find higher ground and wait for rescue. On June 24, 2025, a catastrophic flood struck Rongjiang County, Guizhou. In just 12 hours, this county, once renowned for its lush mountains and clear waters, was suddenly engulfed by a once-in-30 years massive flood. The muddy river water, carrying broken logs and stones, burst through the embankments like a runaway horse. Main roads cracked under the torrent. Sections of asphalt were ripped up and swept away, and several trucks floated downstream like toys, crashing into roadside shops. Low-lying villages were completely submerged, and old houses long in disrepair collapsed with a roar in the floodwaters. One villager captured his final footage on his phone, muddy waves crashing against the second-floor windows, refrigerators and sofas tumbling in the whirlpools. His shouts drowned out by the sound of the rain. Farmland turned into a vast expanse of water, with ripening rice uprooted, and the remnants of plastic greenhouses hanging from high-voltage power lines, swaying in the wind. The most critical situation was in San Village along the river, where the flood struck in the middle of the night, forcing dozens of elderly residents who had stayed behind to climb onto rooftops, calling for help. Rescue teams maneuvered rubber boats through the raging currents. One firefighter described, "There were chickens, ducks, wardrobes, and even coffins floating on the water. We had to rely on people's shouts to locate those who were trapped. The rain is coming down pretty hard, and the river is quite full. If it were you, would you cross this bridge? Do you dare to cross it? What would be going through your mind? If you were standing here now, how would you feel about this bridge? Would you be scared, nervous? Or would you find it thrilling? Now let's take a good look. Do you see it up ahead? Floods are merciless, but people are compassionate. At the rescue scene, I felt deeply saddened. In the face of natural disasters, we truly are so small and powerless. A catastrophic dam collapse submerged the town in water, turning everyday life completely upside down. The immense force of nature's fury caused widespread chaos. Floodwaters continue to spread, with some houses collapsing and others inundated, making them uninhabitable. In certain areas, the water inside homes has risen above thigh level. Furniture is floating. Essential supplies have been destroyed.
Ít nó sàn à?
Quên rồi.
Quên đấy.
要花是吧？500多呢。还有个这两个这样。
我不敢，我要昨天没脱那个老李，你真的是。
In the past 24 hours, sudden heavy rainfall and continuous downpours have triggered severe flooding. Within just a few hours, multiple rivers quickly rose above warning levels, causing serious traffic disruptions and preventing residents from evacuating in time. In addition, many towns and villages have experienced water and power outages, and landslides have occurred in some mountainous areas. Based on observations, the floodwaters have reached the height of a two-story building. Looking at the footage, the relentless rain looks as if water is being poured directly from the sky. And under this kind of downpour, it doesn't take long before flooding begins. The water level reached 5 meters, submerging to floors of 3-story buildings. In some mountainous areas, the heavy rain triggered mudslides and landslides, washing away roads, and cars along with the people inside were swept away. Villages faced water, power and network outages. It's hard to imagine how much pain and damage this disaster brought at that moment. Next, let's take a look at the power of hurricanes. When a hurricane strikes, fierce winds and heavy rain sweep through, flooding the streets in an instant. Trees are uprooted, rooftops are torn off houses, and vehicles are washed away. Broken power lines and fallen branches are scattered everywhere, plunging the city into chaos. Coastal areas are hit the hardest, with seawater flooding streets and homes, forcing many residents to evacuate urgently. The sound of the wind howls together with the rain, casting everything into darkness. The destructive power of hurricanes is astonishing, but in the face of disaster, people help one another and stand together, keeping hope alive amidst the storm. In this image, a sudden tornado is rapidly forming on the outskirts of the city. A massive funnel cloud extends downward from the dark, heavy clouds, sweeping up dust and debris from the ground in a striking display of power. The sky appears dark and oppressive, with thick clouds moving quickly, signaling the arrival of heavy rain and strong winds. The road is empty, its wet surface reflecting the dark clouds and faint light, while the surrounding buildings and vehicles look particularly small, as if they could be swept into the storm at any moment. Nearby trees sway violently in the strong winds, and residential areas in the distance are under serious threat. Tornadoes can cause immense destruction, instantly destroying houses, flipping vehicles and snapping power lines, posing a significant danger to the lives and property of local residents.
哎，